My name is Richard Hale. I'm 73 years old. Some of you might remember me from a few weeks back. The response to that video was overwhelming, and I want to thank you for that. I want to pause here for just a moment, because before I go any further, I need you to understand something. When someone my age speaks, it's not theory, it's not advice pulled from a book or a podcast. It's lived experience, it's memory, it's regret, it's truth earned the hard way. But today, I need to talk about something I didn't mention then, something more personal, something that changed everything about how I see relationships. And I need you to hear this, because what I'm about to tell you could save you from the kind of pain that stays with you for decades. This is not a dramatic story. There are no villains, no betrayals, no shocking twists. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. My wife, Margaret, and I were married for 41 years. That's longer than some of you watching this have been alive. And for most of that time, I thought we had a good marriage. Not perfect, but good, solid. The kind of marriage people stay in. We were the couple others pointed to and said, they'll last. We paid our bills. We showed up to family events. We didn't scream at each other. We didn't cheat. We didn't fall apart. But here's what nobody tells you about long marriages. You can live with someone for decades and still not really know them. You can share a bed, a home, a life, and still be strangers in the ways that matter most. And if you're listening to this and thinking, that can't be me, that's exactly what I thought too. Margaret died 6 years ago. Pancreatic cancer, diagnosed in March, gone by July. 4 months from healthy to gone. 4 months from everyday life to hospital rooms, quiet hallways, and conversations you never think you'll have. And in those final weeks, lying in that hospice bed, she said something to me that I think about every single day. She said, "Richard, we wasted so much time being right instead of being close." At the time, I didn't understand it. I was defensive. We had a good marriage, didn't we? We rarely fought. We were comfortable together. We'd built a life. But that's exactly the problem. We were comfortable. And comfortable isn't the same as connected. If this feels uncomfortably familiar, don't turn away. This is where the truth begins. Let me tell you what I mean. For years, Margaret would suggest things, small things. And I want you to hear that word carefully. Small. Not ultimatums, not demands, not emotional explosions, just invitations. Let's take a pottery class together. Why don't we go dancing anymore? Remember when we used to stay up talking for hours? She wasn't asking for a new life. She was asking for pieces of the one we already had, and I always had a reason why not. Too tired, too busy, too expensive, too impractical. Each excuse sounded reasonable on its own. That's how neglect disguises itself. It never announces itself as neglect. It sounds like logic. It sounds like responsibility. It sounds like adulthood. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I just thought we had time. That belief, we have time, has destroyed more relationships than anger ever could. I thought those little moments didn't matter. I thought the big things, providing, being faithful, being reliable, I thought those were enough. They weren't. And if you're nodding right now, thinking, but I do all the important things, listen closely. That's exactly where I was wrong. You see, I thought love was about grand gestures, being there during the crises, paying the bills, showing up. And yes, those things matter. They absolutely do. But what I didn't understand, what no one ever really explains, is that love is built in the tiny, unremarkable moments. The conversations you have over breakfast, the walks you take for no reason, The way you listen, really listen, when your partner tells you about their day, not half listening, not nodding while scrolling, not waiting for your turn to speak. I stopped doing those things, not all at once. It happened gradually. So gradually I didn't even notice. That's how relationships drift apart. Not with a bang, with silence. One missed conversation led to another. One, not tonight, I'm tired, led to 1,000. One, we can do that later, became never. And Margaret, being Margaret, she adapted. This is important. Because when someone stops asking, it doesn't mean they stopped caring. It often means they stopped hoping. She stopped asking me to dance, stopped suggesting we take classes together, stopped trying to have those deep conversations. She didn't yell. She didn't accuse. She didn't beg. She simply adjusted her expectations. She found her own friends, her own activities, her own life. And I told myself that meant everything was fine. We became roommates who happened to be married, polite, considerate, fundamentally alone. And here's the hardest part to admit. I didn't see it. Or maybe I saw it and told myself it was normal. That this is just what happens in long marriages. The passion fades. You settle into routine. You become comfortable. But comfortable is just another word for complacent. And complacency is quiet. It doesn't argue. It doesn't demand. It just slowly takes everything meaningful away. When Margaret got sick, everything changed. Not slowly, not gradually. All at once. Suddenly we had a deadline. Suddenly all those things I thought we'd do someday had a very clear expiration date. And that's the cruel truth about time. You don't feel its value until you're running out of it. Hospital rooms have a way of stripping away illusions. No distractions, no excuses, just truth. In those final months, we talked more honestly than we had in 20 years. Think about that. It took the threat of death for us to finally speak the way we should have been speaking all along. She told me things I never knew, dreams she'd given up on, hurt she'd carried silently, times she'd felt invisible in her own marriage. Invisible. That word still sits heavy in my chest. She told me about moments when she needed me emotionally, and I was physically present, but mentally somewhere else. Times when she reached for connection and felt like she was touching air. One night, about 3 weeks before she died, she told me about a trip she'd always wanted to take, to Scotland. Her grandmother was from there, and she'd always dreamed of seeing the Highlands, walking through the villages, standing where her family once stood, understanding where she came from. She'd mentioned it to me, multiple times over the years, and every time I'd dismissed it. Too expensive, not a good time. Maybe when we retire. We never went, and now we never would. That realization is a kind of grief people don't talk about. It's mourning moments that never happened. She wasn't angry when she told me this. That's what made it worse. She was just sad, resigned, like she'd accepted years ago that I wasn't going to be the partner she needed. I asked her why she never pushed harder, why she didn't insist. And you know what she said? I didn't want to make you do something you didn't want to do. I wanted you to want to do it with me. That sentence broke me. Because she was right. She didn't want obligation. She wanted desire. She didn't want compliance. She wanted connection. She wanted me to care. Not because it was reasonable, but because it mattered to her. And I couldn't even give her that. Here's what I've learned, and I hope you're listening because this is important. The biggest threat to your relationship isn't cheating. It isn't fighting. It isn't some dramatic betrayal. It's indifference. It's taking each other for granted. It's the slow erosion of intimacy that happens when you stop trying. You stop asking questions because you think you already know the answers. You stop making effort because you think your partner will always be there. You stop prioritizing the relationship because you think you have time. And one day, you wake up next to a stranger. Or worse. They're gone, and you never got the chance to really know them at all. After Margaret died, I found a journal in her nightstand. It wasn't hidden, it wasn't locked, it wasn't dramatic, it was just there. And somehow, that made it worse. She'd been keeping it for years, and reading through it was like discovering a person I'd lived with but never truly seen. Each page felt like a conversation I should have had while she was alive. Each sentence felt like a moment I could have saved if I had paid attention. She wrote about loneliness, about feeling like she was screaming into a void, about how painful it was to feel unseen by the person who was supposed to know her best. She wrote about small moments that hurt her, times I was physically present but emotionally absent, times I chose work over her, times I was more interested in my phone than in what she was saying, moments that meant nothing to me, moments that stayed with her for years. That's the part people don't understand. It's not the big arguments that stay with someone. It's the quiet dismissals, the lack of curiosity, the feeling of being tolerated instead of cherished. She also wrote about love, about the man she married, about hoping that version of me would come back, about trying to reach me and not knowing how. And that's when it hit me. I was right there. We slept in the same bed every night. We ate at the same table. We shared the same house. But I might as well have been on another planet. And here's the part that kills me. It wasn't malicious. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't careless on purpose. I just got lazy. I thought showing up was enough. I thought providing was enough. I thought not doing anything wrong was the same as doing things right. It isn't. Relationships don't die from dramatic failures. They die from 1,000 small neglects. And every one of those neglects feels insignificant in the moment, until you read about them years later in someone's private thoughts. If you're in a relationship right now, I want you to ask yourself some questions, and don't answer them quickly. Sit with them. When's the last time you had a real conversation with your partner? Not about logistics, not about schedules, not about what's for dinner. A real conversation about dreams, fears, ideas, the things that make them feel alive. When's the last time you did something just because it would make them happy? Not because it was their birthday, not because it was an anniversary, just because. When's the last time you looked at them, really looked at them, and felt grateful they're in your life? If you can't remember, you're making the same mistake I made. Your partner isn't going to be there forever. I know that sounds dark, but it's true. One of you will die first, and when that happens, you don't get a do-over. You don't get to go back and have those conversations you postponed. You don't get to take those trips you kept delaying. You don't get to say those things you assumed they already knew. Margaret and I had 41 years, and I wasted at least half of them being comfortable instead of connected, being right instead of being close, being present instead of being engaged. Don't make my mistake. Love isn't something you feel and then stop working on. Love is something you do, every day, in small ways and big ways. It's choosing to be curious about your partner, even after decades together. It's trying new things together even when it's uncomfortable. It's having hard conversations even when it's easier to avoid them. It's caring about the things they care about, not because you have to, but because they matter to the person you love. After Margaret died, people kept telling me I'd been a good husband. They meant well. But they were wrong. I wasn't a good husband. I was an adequate husband. I met the minimum requirements. I didn't cheat. I didn't abuse. I didn't abandon. But that's an incredibly low bar. Being a good partner means actively building intimacy, choosing vulnerability, staying curious, making effort, prioritizing connection even when you're tired or busy or stressed. I didn't do those things, and now I live with the regret of knowing I had something precious and I let it slip away through sheer neglect. 6 years later, I still think about Scotland, about how little it would have cost me to say yes. A week of my time, some money, that's it. And it would have meant everything to her. I think about the pottery classes she wanted to take, the dancing lessons, the long conversations, all the small ways she tried to stay connected, and all the times I said no or not, now or maybe later. Later never came. It never does. If you love someone, if you share your life with someone, don't wait for the perfect time to show them they matter. Don't assume they know. Don't take them for granted. Ask them about their dreams. Listen to their stories. Do the things they suggest, even if they don't interest you particularly, because strengthening your bond should interest you. Be present. Be curious. Be intentional. Because one day you'll be where I am, sitting alone, looking through old photographs, reading journals, realizing you had everything you needed and you didn't appreciate it until it was gone. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty. I'm telling you this because you still have time. Your partner, if you have one, is still there. You can still have those conversations, take those trips, make those memories, but you have to do it now. On my desk, I keep a photograph of Margaret from our honeymoon, 1972. She's laughing, squinting in the sun, her hair blowing in the wind, so full of life and hope and dreams. And I think about the woman she became, still beautiful, still kind, but with a quiet sadness in her eyes that I put there through years of benign neglect. Margaret was right. We wasted so much time being right instead of being close. Don't waste your time the way I wasted mine. Love the people in your life actively, intentionally, while you still can. This channel features people like me sharing life advice and memories. If you found this helpful, please subscribe and turn on notifications for more. And if you got something from this, leave a comment. Hit that like button if you've got a story to tell, something you've learned that might help someone else. There's a form down in the description. Fill it out. Maybe next time we'll be sharing your story.